A young girl stands on a busy street corner in Santa Monica, her violin case open in front of her, filled with coins and dollar bills from amazed passers-by. People stop, pull out their phones, and watch in complete wonder as this little person creates magic with just 4 strings and a bow. Fast forward just a few years, and that same girl is now standing on a grand concert stage, wearing an elegant dress, with a full orchestra behind her, ready to perform one of the most challenging pieces ever written for violin. This is the real story of Karolina Protsenko. Today, we are going to dive deep into one of the most incredible musical journeys you have ever heard. We are talking about the moment when 15-year-old Karolina Protsenko stepped away from the streets and onto the classical concert stage for the very first time. And she did not just play any piece. She chose to perform Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto, a piece so difficult that even professional violinists with decades of experience sometimes struggle with it. But before we get to that magical evening, let me tell you how a little girl from Ukraine became one of the most famous young musicians in the world. Karolina was born in Kyiv, Ukraine, on October 3rd, 2008. Her parents, Nikolai and Ella, were both musicians themselves. Her father played guitar, and her mother played piano. Music was not just something that played in their house. It was the language their family spoke. When Karolina was just 6 years old, something big happened that would change everything. In 2015, her family made the brave decision to move from Ukraine to California. Imagine being 6 years old and having to leave everything you know behind to start fresh in a completely new country where people speak a different language. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Even before they moved to America, little Karolina had already started learning the violin. She was only 5 years old when she first picked up the instrument. Think about that for a second. When most kids her age were still learning how to tie their shoes or ride a bike without training wheels, Karolina was already making her first sounds on the violin. It was not easy. Learning violin is tough for anyone, but especially for a tiny child whose fingers can barely reach the strings properly. When the family settled in California, they did not have a lot of money. Moving to a new country is expensive, and starting over is never easy. But Karolina's parents had an idea. They knew their daughter was special. They had watched her practice for hours, seen her natural talent grow stronger every day, and noticed how much joy she brought to people when she played. So they decided to try something that might seem crazy to most parents. They took their young daughter to the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, one of the busiest tourist areas in Los Angeles, and set up a little spot where she could play violin for passers-by. She became known for her street performances, primarily at 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, California. Picture a small girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old at the time, standing with her violin in the middle of all the chaos of a busy street. Cars honking, people talking, street vendors calling out, and in the middle of it all, this pure, beautiful music floating through the air. People would be walking by, maybe in a hurry to get somewhere, and then they would hear these incredible sounds and just stop dead in their tracks. What made Karolina different from other street performers was not just already amazing for someone so young. It was her pure joy. As she played, she would dance and skip effortlessly, sparking pure delight and even inspiring nearby toddlers to join in, dancing alongside her. She was not performing because she had to. She was not sad or desperate. She was playing because she absolutely loved it, and that love was so strong that everyone around her could feel it too. Then something incredible happened. Someone recorded one of her street performances and posted it online. The video spread like wildfire. We are not talking about getting a few hundred views or even a few thousand. Her performance of Post Malone's Sunflower at the 3rd Street Promenade went viral, quickly amassing over 31 million views. 31 million people watched this young girl play violin on a street corner, and they were all completely amazed. But that was just the beginning. More videos followed, and each one seemed to get more popular than the last. Karolina was not just playing classical music that people might expect from a young violinist. She was playing pop songs, movie themes, and music that young people actually listened to. She took songs that people knew and loved and made them sound completely magical on her violin. Every time she posted a new video, millions of people would watch it within days. Her incredible success even earned her a spot on The Ellen DeGeneres Show. Imagine being 10 years old and getting to meet Ellen DeGeneres, one of the most famous talk show hosts in America. Karolina went on the show, told her story, and then played live for the entire audience. The crowd went absolutely wild. Here was this tiny girl, so small she could barely see over Ellen's desk, but when she played her violin, she commanded the entire studio like a seasoned professional. As Karolina got older and more famous, she kept performing on the streets, but she also started getting invited to bigger and more formal events. People in the classical music world began to take notice of her talent. They realized that this was not just a cute kid who could play a few songs. This was a seriously gifted musician who could potentially become one of the great violinists of her generation. She became a student at the Colburn School, one of the most prestigious music schools in the country. The Colburn School is not just any music school. It is where some of the most talented young musicians in America go to study with world-class teachers. Getting accepted there is incredibly difficult, and the fact that Karolina was invited to study there shows just how seriously the classical music world was taking her talent. But even as she studied classical music more seriously, Karolina never forgot her roots. She kept making videos, kept performing on the street sometimes, and kept connecting with her millions of fans online. She understood that she had been given a gift not just for music, but for bringing joy to people all around the world. Her social media following grew into the millions. People from every country you can imagine were watching her videos and falling in love with her music. Then came the moment we have all been waiting for. In November 2023, at age 15, Karolina made her orchestral debut performing Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor with Orchestra Nova LA, described as the undisputed revelation and showstopper of the evening. This was not just any concert. This was her very first time performing a full classical concerto with a professional orchestra, and she did not choose an easy piece to start with. Let me tell you about Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto. Felix Mendelssohn wrote this piece in 1844, and it is considered one of the most beautiful and challenging pieces ever written for violin. It is the kind of piece that music students dream about playing someday, maybe when they are in college or even graduate school. Professional violinists spend months preparing for performances of this concerto because it requires not just technical skill, but deep musical understanding and maturity. The concerto has 3 movements, and each one presents its own unique challenges. The first movement starts with the soloist playing a beautiful singing melody that seems to float above the orchestra. But do not let that fool you into thinking it is easy. The violin part includes incredibly fast runs up and down the fingerboard, double stops where the violinist has to play 2 notes at the same time, and passages that require perfect intonation and timing with the orchestra. The second movement is slower and more emotional. It is like a beautiful song without words, where the violin sings the most gorgeous melody you have ever heard. This movement tests a musician's ability to express deep emotion and connect with the audience on a personal level. It is not enough to just play the right notes. The performer has to make you feel something. The third movement is pure excitement. It is fast, energetic, and requires incredible technical skill. The violin part includes rapid-fire passages, jumping between different strings, and rhythms that can trip up even experienced players. By the time you get to the end of this movement, both the performer and the audience should be completely exhilarated. For a 15-year-old to attempt this piece is remarkable. For a 15-year-old who started as a street performer to master it is almost unbelievable. But Karolina did not just play it. According to everyone who was there that night, she absolutely owned it. Imagine the scene on that evening in November 2023. The concert hall was packed with people who had heard about this young violinist and wanted to see what all the excitement was about. Some were probably skeptical. After all, there is a big difference between playing pop songs on the street and performing a major classical work with a full orchestra. The lights dimmed, the conductor raised his baton, and then Karolina walked onto the stage. She must have felt nervous. How could she not? This was the biggest moment of her musical life so far. Everything she had worked for, all those hours of practice, all those street performances, all those lessons at Colburn School, had led to this moment. But when she lifted her violin and the first notes of the Mendelssohn began to fill the concert hall, something magical happened. The audience realized immediately that they were witnessing something special. This was not just a talented teenager playing a difficult piece. This was a true artist, someone who understood the music on a deep level and could communicate its beauty to everyone listening. She was described as the undisputed revelation and showstopper of the evening, which means that in a concert with professional musicians and other talented performers, this 15-year-old girl was the one who stole the show completely. Think about what that moment must have meant to Karolina. Just a few years earlier, she was a little girl playing violin on street corners, hoping people would stop and listen for a few minutes. Now she was standing in front of hundreds of people in a beautiful concert hall with a full orchestra supporting her, performing one of the greatest pieces of classical music ever written. And she was not just getting through it or doing okay. She was absolutely brilliant. But this concert was more than just a personal achievement for Karolina. It represented something bigger and more important. It showed that talent can come from anywhere and anyone. It proved that you do not have to be born into a wealthy family or have every advantage to achieve your dreams. Karolina's family took a risk when they moved to America. They took another risk when they decided to let their young daughter perform on the streets. But those risks led to this incredible moment. In January 2024, just a few months after her orchestral debut, Karolina performed Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto again to open a Los Angeles Chamber Orchestra masterclass at the Colburn School, followed by an interview with Jennifer Coe. This shows that her first performance was not just a lucky moment. She had truly mastered this incredibly difficult piece, and the classical music community recognized her as a serious artist. The story of Karolina's first classical concert is also a story about the power of the internet and social media to change lives. Without YouTube, Instagram, and other platforms, millions of people never would have discovered this talented young girl. Her videos allowed her to build a following and show the world what she could do. But it also shows that online fame is not enough by itself. Karolina had to put in years of serious study and practice to develop the skills needed for classical performance at the highest level. What makes Karolina's story even more inspiring is that she has never lost touch with her roots or forgotten the people who supported her from the beginning. Even after performing with major orchestras, she still makes videos for her online fans. She still plays music that appeals to young people, not just traditional classical pieces. She understands that she can be a bridge between different types of music and different types of audiences. Her success is also a reminder of how important it is to support young artists. Karolina's parents could have played it safe and insisted she focus only on school like most other kids. Instead, they recognized her talent and did everything they could to help her develop it, even when it meant taking risks and making sacrifices. Her teachers at Colburn School invested their time and expertise in helping her grow as a musician. The people who stopped to listen to her street performances and shared her videos online all played a part in her journey. Looking back at that first classical concert, it is clear that it was not just an ending, but a beginning. It was the moment when Karolina officially announced to the world that she was ready to be taken seriously as a classical musician, not just as a talented kid who could play pop songs. It was her graduation from street performer to concert artist, even though she was still only 15 years old. But perhaps the most amazing thing about Karolina's story is that it is still being written. She is now 16 years old, developing as a musician. She has decades ahead of her to continue growing. If she can accomplish this much by age 15, imagine what she might achieve by the time she is 25, or 35, or 50. The possibilities are endless. Her story also gives hope to other young people who have big dreams, but maybe do not see a clear path to achieving them. Karolina's journey shows that sometimes you have to create your own opportunities. When traditional paths were not available to her family, they found a different way. When she needed to build an audience, she used the tools that were available to her. like social media and street performing. When she was ready for bigger challenges, she was prepared because she had never stopped working and improving. The evening of Karolina's first classical concert was more than just a musical performance. It was a celebration of talent, hard work, family support, and the belief that dreams can come true if you are willing to work for them. It was a reminder that music has the power to bring people together, to move us emotionally, and to show us what human beings are capable of achieving when they put their hearts and souls into something they love. For everyone who was in that concert hall that night, it was a moment they will never forget. They got to witness the birth of what will likely be a major musical career. They saw a young artist take a huge step forward in her journey. And they experienced the pure joy and beauty that happens when someone with incredible talent shares their gift with the world. As we think about Karolina's amazing journey from street performer to concert stage, it reminds us that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. It shows us the power of persistence, the importance of family support, and the incredible things that can happen when talent meets opportunity. Most of all, it reminds us why we love music in the first place, because it has the power to surprise us, inspire us, and bring out the best in all of us. So there you have it, the incredible story of 15-year-old Karolina Protsenko's first classical concert, where she performed Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto and announced to the world that a new star had been born. From the streets of Santa Monica to the concert halls of Los Angeles, from viral videos to standing ovations, this is a story that proves that with talent, hard work, and a little bit of courage, anything is possible. If this story inspired you as much as it inspired me, please hit that like button to show your support for young artists like Karolina who are following their dreams against all odds. Share this video with your friends and family, because everyone needs to hear stories like this that remind us of the amazing things human beings can achieve. And do not forget to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell, because we will continue to bring you more incredible stories of talented musicians who are changing the world one note at a time. Until next time, keep believing in the power of music and the importance of following your dreams, no matter how impossible they might seem.